Hello and welcome to Diverse and Inclusive Leaders, the show where I interview the most inspirational and thought-provoking leaders of today and unearth their unique stories of diversity and inclusion to help inspire, educate and motivate others to make the world a better place. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by the very wonderful Bobby Umar, an individual that I follow avidly, actually, on LinkedIn. He is a 5-time TEDx speaker, Inc. magazine's top 100 leadership speaker, personal branding expert, and authentic networking and digital expert and leader in his field. He's been a professional speaker for over 20 years now, and he now coaches public speakers and also TEDx speakers, talkers and enthusiasts to build up their speaker profile, their story and their personal brand. He's consulted organizations from multi-million-pound blue chip businesses through to individuals and entrepreneurs to help them build up their social media and their digital profile and connections. Entrepreneurship is an area that he's very, very passionate about, as well as career growth, development, team dynamics, and social capital. He's done a whole range of thought leadership programs. A number of his highlights, of course, include the TEDx speeches that we've talked about, as well as he's been a Huffington Post contributor, a top 15 Toronto tweeter, with 500,000 followers. 500,000, that's incredible, Bobby. And he's also authored 3 books, How to Network Anytime, Anywhere, with Anyone, as well as as he was also ranked the 2nd best business coach to follow on Twitter. Oh my goodness, there's so many here. I'm getting out of breath with all of these different accolades. He's also been a top 7 networking guru to follow, and he's named by Twitter as a marketing rock star. I think that's totally awesome. So he's with me here today. Welcome to the show, Bobby, and delighted to have you here with us.
I'm delighted to be here too, Leila, and I'm getting kind of embarrassed. My gosh, that was a long intro.
It was indeed, but you know what, completely deserved. You know, you have some fantastic videos up there, some brilliant content, and you know, I'm delighted that we can welcome you to the show, and all of our wonderful listeners have the chance to learn a little bit more about you and what it is that you're up to at the moment out there in the world and in Ontario in Canada.
Thanks. You want me to just talk about what I'm up to? Is that the idea?
Yeah, well, do you know, it would be fantastic to, because of course, you know, you've done so many different things, you know, around the world, and your voice reaches many, you know, and you help to inspire and motivate many, many people. But it'd be great to hear about some of your current projects. You know, what are you doing right now? You know, and is there anything, you know, specific that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to share some of the stuff I'm working on, but I'm also more happy to dive into anything that you think will be benefit to your audience. But for now, the main things I'm working on is because I'm speaking, which is fine, and I continue to do that. I have an agent that gets me gigs as well. But now I'm running a speaker mastermind where I teach speakers how to build their own thought leadership brand, profile, and story, and a system for getting more speaking gigs. That's one thing I'm doing. A second thing is I've actually started a startup called DYPB, Discover Your Personal Brand. So we're doing personal branding training and resources and events to help individual employees find more alignment, focus, and impact. So that's a new thing. It's a scary thing for me because there's a team of us, and I have to make sure that we're all going to be successful together. And then the third thing I'm doing, I actually launched a Patreon page, which is really about helping individuals get more career development advice. So a big aspect of what I do on Twitter and LinkedIn is create content that helps people with their careers. But this one's focused specifically on career development and helping those people get to that next level in their career. So those are some, and the other one actually I'm working on is called Master Video. It's basically we're helping people do video content. So that's among the key things, which is a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, you know, whatever topic you want to dive into that's going to be beneficial, whether you want to talk about TED Talks or personal branding or networking, let's do it. I'm here. I'm excited.
Oh my goodness. Right. Okay. So there was a whole number of questions that I have that I really, really wanted to ask you. And I love, you know, I really love that you're starting to do, you know, a lot more around kind of career development and personal brand piece. You know, I think that's fantastic. And I'd love to ask your advice actually about a few things. after the show.
Sure.
But quickly, what I would like to do, and I know that you are, an expert in kind of sharing also not just business content, but some of the personal content. Talk to me a little bit, about your career journey and how you found yourself where you are right now, because I've watched quite a few of your videos out there on YouTube and how you kind of almost found yourself, because you talk a lot about these pieces where sometimes in the past you've maybe felt quite lost, you felt, actually it's very, very important to believe in yourself and to believe in actually fulfillment, and really finding that joy within you. Tell me how you came to be where you are today, Bobby.
Yeah, so I mean, what I can tell you is that I started off on a path with different paths. And so at first was an engineer, and there I didn't really feel like I fit in at all. I did that because I followed math and physics because I was good at it, but not because I was passionate about it. And then I spent some years as a teacher, as a performer, and then I went to brand marketing. But in all those four different paths, I felt lost in my job and stuck in my role and unfulfilled with the work I was doing. And it didn't make sense to me that there's always something majorly wrong with it. Even though there's parts that I love, something didn't work out. And so finally, after 4 careers, and the last one was interesting because it actually had to do with my health. I became diabetic, and I'd asked my employer for some leeway for time off and to recover. And then they gave me a package and didn't want to deal with me. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And so it made me think about, well, what do I really want? What's important to me? And so for the next 6 months, I dove into my personal brand to figure out what do I really want to do next. And I don't want to just jump in and something without it coming to fruition. And after 3 to 6 months, I understood that from everyone that the analysis and people that told me that there was really certain aspects of my brand that were important, like persuasion, influence, performing, presenting. People was a huge part of it, nurturing, diversity. And by doing so, there was about 12 to 15 paths I could take, but the one that screamed at me was professional speaker. And so I went on that, and I haven't looked back ever since. So, but it was interesting to have that whole path of different things that I didn't think about. And finally, when I took the initiative to figure out what I really wanted to do, now I've been doing this for more time combined than those 4 other things.
Mm-hmm. And so that's really, really interesting, is that actually, you kind of set out in a very, very different place to where you are right now. And through that exploratory, that trial, that error, actually you found your joy through the speaking. You've kind of stuck with and evolved that over the last couple of decades. I think that's fantastic. And tell me, because I think, these days, education and social media and, all of this is readily available to all different types of people, all different ages, obviously the millennials, the zillennials, all very, very interested and kind of avid social media followers. Talk to me about how one might go about kind of, maybe being a TED speaker, or why our listeners and people who are kind of tuning in today should maybe consider embarking on public speaking, because it seems to me there's a lot more of this happening, which I think is great that people are sharing their voices, but it's quite a ballsy thing to actually get out there and do, I think. So, it'd be great if we can inspire some people out there to actually take the plunge and go for gold and actually try and do some public speaking.
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. One was the TEDx thing, which I think that, a TEDx is really about really strong ideas for the world. And I think every single one of us has interesting ideas and then unique stories about our life that we can actually share with the world. So every single one of you out there has a TEDx talk within you. In fact, you may have more than one. I've done 5. I even have a few more that I have, on my plate that I want to do. I'm sure you do too. So I can help you extract that, but you can think about those things. And then the public speaking thing relates, because at the end of the day, every single one of us has unique experiences. We have unique insights. We have stories to share. And we all have the ability to create a voice for ourselves. And all of us have a voice that wants to be heard in some way or another, whether it's professional or even personal, or maybe it's a health struggle. But either way, you have stuff within you, within your stories and your insights, your experience, that you can actually share with the world. And it doesn't even matter. Like, a lot of people, when I talk to about speaking, they're like, oh, I've only been working for 3-4 years. Who am I to talk? There are some amazing speakers who are 18 years old, and other ones who find their voice at 60. It doesn't matter what age you are. You have opportunities to, build that voice. And nowadays, in today's, knowledge economy and gig economy, but there's a big knowledge economy. So people value knowledge, people value insights, people also value stories. And so for every single one of you out there, you have the opportunity to share your voice and share your experience through stories. And it's going to ultimately build your personal brand. If you want to be seen as a thought leader in any field, or you want to actually build your brand, speaking is the number one way to 10x that versus anything else. Sure, you can blog. Sure, you can go, you can do small snippets here and there. But ultimately, the best thing is to speak about the stuff that you know about, that you care about, and that you want to share with the world. So for me, public speaking is something everyone should get into at some point, or it should be part of their overall brand strategy. But it's something that it's going to uniquely separate you from everybody else.
Fascinating. And for those that are thinking, oh, exactly how you described, I'm not sure what I'm going to speak about, they go through that journey and think, okay, actually, so that there's something here, that I could share about my story that maybe people will be interested in. How would our listeners go about starting to curate their own message? If they're kind of at the beginning of their journey, they're considering coming to a brand expert like yourself, what kind of advice might you give them to help them along the way and give them confidence on that journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things I do when I work with speakers is obviously get them to brainstorm the different ideas and look at their entire life. And so within their lifetime, there's all these different stories and experiences and skills they've built. Now, working with me, I'll hone in on the top 3 or top 5, but ultimately what you can do is start by listing off every single thing you've done in your life that you've loved and why you've loved it. You can start looking at, what are my top 5 strengths or expertise that people admire me for? What are the top 5 things that people ask me for advice about? And then maybe even survey your friends and say, hey guys, I'm thinking about speaking about a topic. And just say, if you were to pay me to come into your company to speak about something, what would that one thing be? And when you gather that information, you will actually have a whole bunch of things from which you can then start to curate and bucket and thread and see, well, based on this information, what are the top 3 or 5 things that I could possibly talk about? And I think that's the first step, because if you do your own analysis, you get the assessment of other people, and just put it out there, you can start gathering a lot of great information. That's why personal branding is so important, because it's really about investing in understanding who you are, and that knowledge is going to help you in any aspect of your life. But for speaking, it's the same thing.
This is what I love about you, Bobby, is you make things sound so simple and you're enthusiastic
I try to.
about them as well. Every time I watch your video, it's like, yeah, just get out there, just do it. And I absolutely love that. And I think, in this day and age, sometimes, we do worry and we do potentially procrastinate a little bit too much. Actually, sometimes, it's kind of feeling that fear and, just going for it anyway. And seeing what happens, take some of these simple lessons that you discussed there, listing out,
Well, the other thing I think about too is what is the worst that can happen by exploring yourself? Like, it's not like I didn't say go out there and stand on a stage and be naked and talk for 20 minutes. I didn't say that. All I said was ask your friends who you care about and they care about you and they love you for information about yourself. That's all we're doing. Once you have that, then you'll start to see, because it's going to validate some of the stuff you want to talk about. It's going to validate the fact, oh, wow, yeah, I would love to hear you speak about this in my company. So it's a great process.
And is that the process you go through when you're validating, some of your new ideas? I watched a video of you with your lovely daughter, and I thought that was just so gorgeous, actually, really, really nice, where she was chatting to the camera. When you have these new kind of Bobby ideas, you go to the family and say, hey, what do you think? And go to a trusted pool of friends to ask them their opinion.
Well, not for those videos. I mean, I create a lot of content, so I'm doing almost videos every day. So those ones, I have a bucket of all these questions I've gotten over the years, so it's very easy for me to create content. But for important ones, like for example, my 5th TEDx talk, I went out and I actually crowdsourced with my Facebook friends on the title twice, and then the idea of what I wanted to share, and by doing so, I actually got a lot of great information, and that's how I actually came up with the final title. Because at first it was going to be about 20-second hugs, but then I didn't like that so much, and so we had different versions, and finally the vote that won was, could you change a person's life in 20 seconds? That's what it was.
I love that one. And tell all of our listeners a little bit about that, because in fact, 20 seconds. Come on, tell us. Love to hear it.
Well, the basic idea was, I set the premise about the importance of connection and human touch in the world. That's just a natural thing. The second thing I said was that, we hug each other all the time. Sometimes, 3 seconds, sometimes 1.5 seconds, sometimes long as 6 seconds. But then I said, when is the only time that we would hug somebody for 20 seconds or longer? And in particular, someone who is not our intimate partners or our children or our parents. And it was actually at funerals during tragedy, because humans need that 20 seconds or more of release, rejuvenation, support, all this kind of stuff. And then on top of that, there's tons of research that shows that 20 seconds or more will actually help in so many ways in terms of emotional and cognitive and behavioral function. That's really fantastic. So my idea was, instead of waiting for a tragedy, what if we were to proactively hug someone for 20 seconds or longer? Because, I've hugged thousands of people, in my life, and I've probably hugged hundreds of people for 6 seconds. But the number of people I've hugged for 20 seconds or longer is, I can probably count on my fingers. So now, of course, you can't just randomly do that, because it's an awkward thing, and it's and there's consent, and there's all these different things. So I said, so here's my process. You have to plan it. But if you can plan a proactive 20-second hug just to nurture and rejuvenate yourself every day, wouldn't that be amazing? And that was my idea, because I don't think anyone does this.
I totally love that. And it's just, what, I'm giggling now because it makes me laugh, just the prospect of kind of going out into the street and kind of being like, hey, do you want a hug for 20 seconds? And seeing the reactions. Because I'm sure, there'd be people out there that would be thinking, oh my God, this person has absolutely lost the plot. Tell me about the 20-second hugs then. This is so hilarious and fascinating. Did you go out and kind of after the talk, then go and try and, initiate some of the 20-second hugs?
Well, to be honest, I didn't go after strangers. I actually went after my friends. I mean, it's more like I tried to find my friends and say, look, any one of my friends want to try a 20-second hug? So one of my friends, she's like, yeah, let's do this. And actually it was funny because she thought it was great. And but what was funny about this one was we had gone to hot yoga. And then afterwards, we're walking the street going for a coffee. And she's like, hey, you talked about a 20-second hug. You're like, are we going to do one? I'm like, sure, when do you want to do that? She's like, how about right now? And so in the middle of this busy street, she's like, okay, let's do this. You're okay? Consent? Okay, let's do it. And what's funny is you're hugging and you're holding each other for a long time. And, and then about 10 seconds in, she's like, are we allowed to talk? I'm like, yeah, we can talk. Like, who says you can't talk while you're hugging each other? It's like, oh, she's like, well, this is very nice. It's kind of cool. Like, I'm feeling very safe. And the other thing that happens is that when you're hugging someone, eventually their shoulders kind of go down in a relaxed state, like, and you feel that. It's like, okay, now we're into this thing. And I think we ended up about 35 seconds in. She's like, okay, well, that was great. And how'd you feel? She's like, I felt great. I want to do it again sometime. And so it was just a really interesting experiment in the middle of the street. And people are watching us walking by, and we're just hugging for a long time. They may think we're intimate partners because she's a woman, but we're not. We're just friends. But it was really nice.
Oh wow, that's I think I might go and try that actually.
Yeah.
And hope there's no awkward moments. I love that. But you know what? I think actually, you're completely right. On a serious note, taking the time to ultimately have some of that personal contact and to strip back all the layers of, everything that's going on in life, any of the stresses or the strains, we all have obviously, personal lives, issues, business, work, etc. Actually, what you're really talking about is bringing it right back down to the pure bones of humanity and actually saying, do you know what, we are, we're all humans here at the end of the day, let's share some love really. I guess, and actually taking that amount of time, which 20 seconds in the modern world that we live in today, it's kind of a swipe left, swipe right, click on this, click on that. 20 seconds is quite a long time. So, completely almost.
And when you consider that, the attention span of an average person has gone down from 8 seconds down to 3 seconds. And
is that true?
Yeah, it's a significant shift down. So in this new technology world, like short message world is changing. So even investing 20 seconds, I mean, people talk about investing 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day in meditation in the morning, which is fantastic. But I'm just saying 20 seconds, can you just invest in that and, better yourself and help someone else? That's about it.
So to all of our listeners who are out there, either watching on YouTube or listening in on Apple or any of your other kind of favorite podcast apps, try and take 20 seconds either to switch off and meditate or to go and find someone to have a hug. Make sure you ask their permission first.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's no weirdness there.
Yeah, and pick friends. You don't want to go after your boss or CEO. Try to go after friends. Start with friends, not the CEO.
Absolutely. And moving on, because I've got quite a few questions to get through, and I can't believe we've actually been speaking already for 50. Let's do it. Other questions. Talk to me about some of your inspirations, because obviously, you are an inspiration in your own right, and you are a thought leader in your own right. But for you, who's inspired you along the way? Talk to me about some of those little pearls of wisdom that you've experienced as you've been going throughout your career, or people that you perhaps met along the way and thought, oh my goodness, do you know what, that's really inspired me.
Sure. I find inspiration every day from every interaction that I have. So just this morning, I had a coffee before I did this recording, and I was inspired by the talk there. But when I look at people that really inspire me, different versions of people, like Brené Brown definitely inspires me because of her talk on vulnerability and shame and owning it, and and forgiving yourself. I think that's just amazing. Empathy. These are things that I just extremely value. I think are really important for us. I'm inspired by Gary Vaynerchuk because he talks about the hustle, and he's talked about kindness and having a big heart. He gives back a lot. He's also a major parenting advocate, which is something that I adhere to quite a bit. I'm inspired by my children, by their creativity and their the way they look at life, and they're just game for anything, and they love to learn. I just find that really amazing, the things they can do. Watch my son play violin, for example. Just like I'm watching his fingers, and I'm like, how does he do that? Like, wow! And I'm blown away. The guy, he's 10 and he can play this violin. He's been playing it since he was 4, but like it kind of blows my mind what he can do. So I'm inspired by him every day. And then finally, I'll say one of the big inspirations I get was actually from my dad, who told me years ago, there is no tomorrow. What that means for me is two things. One is that, start today what you want to do versus waiting for tomorrow for it to happen, is one thing. And the second thing that it reminds me of, which is mindfulness, being in the moment. So right now here, I'm in the moment to try to help and serve you and your audience the best I can. The situations I'm trying to be as much in the moment when I'm doing the 20-second hug, or whether I'm at another client meeting to make sure I'm helping their concerns. When I'm doing a video, making sure that I'm addressing and helping the people in my community who like my videos and like my pages and things like that. So that mindfulness and is also very important to me in terms of everything that I do.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that. I'm a big fan of meditation, mindfulness, and Eckhart Tolle. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and also Gary Vaynerchuk, who you mentioned. It's funny actually, because I was podcasting just last week with Dennis, who's worked for Gary directly, and he was saying all of the same things about giving back, about the big heart. I think that's so important. Especially with today's kind of modern leader, so to speak, who kind of often does, I think, put purpose before profit, and
right.
Really does put that piece around giving back and personal kind of importance at the center of things, before then going off and say furthering other commercial interests. So no, completely concur with you on those pieces there. And I just, I guess another couple of questions that I had, just around the piece that you mentioned before, actually, was vulnerability. Now I find this a subject that it is incredibly interesting, because traditionally leadership and vulnerability wouldn't necessarily have gone in the same sentence. I think social media and this world that we live in has actually allowed that to be okay. Now, I'm a massive fan of showing some of your authentic and more vulnerable self, because I think it helps with the soul, and I think it also helps with others who want to be able to feel that connection with you, and vice versa. Tell me a little bit about your kind of your experiences around the vulnerable leadership piece.
Well, I think that it's definitely a shift that a lot of older people, authoritarian leaders, are having trouble with. They felt they need to be perfect, in front of their employees, and not, behind the scenes. Certainly they can vent about things, but it's changed. And I think the reason is because connection matters, and connection with your team, connection with your vice presidents, connection with your employees, connection with your customers. Showing vulnerability allows you to create a deeper connection with them, which creates a greater trust. if an authoritarian leader is just always one way in front of people, but it's different behind the scenes, there's not as much of a trust building that's there. And so I think people, and even customers and consumers, are more going to trust someone if they're willing to be vulnerable, to show that, look, I'm human too. I have challenges. Because we all have challenges, health, family, whatever it might be. We all have challenges. So by doing so, you're creating a deeper connection. You're inviting a conversation for them to share their struggles, which as a CEO you want, because you want to know what your employees or your senior leadership team or your users are struggling with, because you want to hear that information. So that's why it's a big shift for a lot of people, which is I think it's slowly being adopted by particularly the younger generation, millennials and younger. But also, I think some of the older people are also realizing this is important to do, and they're shifting, they're changing. But I think we're going to get there, and that's really why my work is so important, to try to make sure that we embrace authentic vulnerability and realize that it's totally fine to be courageous. And this also includes things like mental health and being open to your mental health struggles, or sharing your other challenges. One of the videos I did on LinkedIn a year ago, which I still can't believe I did, was a mental health issue initiative. It was called Let's Get Honest. And I talked about my struggles with food and binging. And I never thought I would post a video on LinkedIn about this, but it got huge traction and people loved it. And they're like, wow, I never thought someone like you would talk about this stuff. But it's so important to have those conversations.
I couldn't agree more. And since you've mentioned that, I'm going to share for the first time, oh God, ever actually, is that I've suffered with mental health, with depression and anxiety for many, many years. A lot of it, I think, down to the ups and downs of business, the emotional roller coaster that one goes on, when you care so much about something working. And, I think because I actually saw that, I saw that video, the Let's Get Honest. And I think it was a very, very brave thing of you to do, to actually share that, because whilst many of us, and, they say something like 30% of the population struggle with mental health issues and anxiety and depression and what have you, actually, and especially in British culture as well, it's those kind of things that we just don't like to talk about. We think about them, we internalize them, and we don't mention them. That's kind of how it is. And so actually, this real, honest, raw account of yourself and others who are putting their voices out there about, maybe the struggles that they've had with mental health and, the various issues around, eating disorders or whatever it might be. I think, it's actually, it's very, very brave. And so, I can see exactly why that video got so much traction, Bobby. I thought it was excellent.
Thanks. And again, I don't do it very often, but I think it's important to encourage people to share this stuff. And because the more of us that we share this, the more likely we're going to, have other people feel confident about sharing. And, after those types of videos go out, I get a lot of people who comment publicly, but then I get lots of private messages, people saying, I'm so glad you talked about this. I really appreciate that. And I think it's important for us to do that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've inspired me to share that. That's the first time I've ever shared that. And I think it takes a brave voice or many who are out there, and other listeners who are out there thinking, I've shared something like that before. Do it, because actually, really, it really helps. It's a very difficult thing, Bobby, to internalize something and not be able to share it, because, coming back to your many very valuable points that you discussed, we are all humans by nature, and we need that sense of comfort. We need that sense of belonging. We need that purpose, in our lives to feel this fulfillment, so no, thank you so much for sharing that. And just a couple of other quick questions I have, because honestly, I could chat to you all day about this stuff, and I'm sure that we'll have another chat offline as well. But just a few more things I wanted to ask, but I'm sure our listeners may also be keen to know as well. What are some of your final kind of top tips before I kind of go into kind of summarizing the conversation and the learnings from today? Any top tips that you can give any aspiring leaders out there, who are embarking on their career or considering a career change, perhaps, and also, any other kind of pearls of wisdom that you can kind of share with us before we wrap up?
Well, I mean, no matter what aspect of your career you're in, the number one thing you need to understand is that you have to invest in yourself. So, your company's not going to look out for you. Like they will to a certain point, but you have to look out for yourself. So number one, invest in yourself. And that means dive into your personal brand, know exactly what your values are, know what you stand for, know what you care about. Do everything you can to align your career path to something you love. Don't just follow a path of success defined by other people. Don't just, do what society says or what your boss says. Know yourself and empower yourself to forge a path that makes more sense for you, that's more aligned, that's more fulfilling. And ultimately, it's going to be more impactful. So to me, that's the biggest thing. Invest in yourself and understand who you are and forge a path for yourself. That is the number one thing at every single time. And the second thing I'll say is that in doing so, no matter what stage you are, you have to be mindful of the narratives you're creating for yourself, and you should always be monitoring exactly where you are. Because even 2 years into something that you truly, truly love, after doing your brand, may not fit anymore. And so, have you monitored your progress and how are you feeling 2 years later? Because maybe it's not fitting anymore. So you have to continually be monitoring this and understanding what is going on with how you feel. And then the third thing I'll say is that it's important for every single person out there to invest in building a thought leadership brand around themselves. And that comes from three main ways. One is creating content and generating new ideas. Another one is working on your speaking and writing skills. So by blogging, speaking, doing videos. And the third one is continuing to network, building deep relationships and broad relationships. And if you do those things on a consistent basis and put it out there, then you're going to be seen more as a thought leader in your field, no matter what it may be.
I think that's some fantastic advice. And Bobby, how can we contact you if we would like to? Of course, there's LinkedIn and everything like that. But if you just let us know your website, what I'll do is I'll put that all into the show notes at the end of the episode today when it airs. And so anyone can obviously go on there and click through and get hold of you.
Sure. So my website is Raeallan.com, and that's for all speaking and speaker mastermind type stuff. My Patreon page, I'll send it as well. That's for all career development stuff. And then, of course, on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, my handle is Raeallan Bobby. So that's pretty much the best place to get in touch.
Fantastic. So before I thank you very much for kind of coming on the show, I just wanted to quickly summarize. And, actually there's so many different things, you've got my brain rattling around now, thinking about all these different things, that I feel I've learned from today. But, in summary, I think, first of all, for everyone who's out there thinking, oh my goodness, 20-second hugs, at least take 20 seconds from your day is all Bobby and I are asking you to do, just to take a little bit of time for yourself and actually maybe be mindful. If you feel brave, which I encourage you to do so, go and ask permission first, but see if there's anyone you can, embrace in your 20-second hug, because actually we are all humans at the end of the day, and really kind of taking that time to kind of appreciate one another and really, really value ourselves is incredibly important. We covered vulnerability today. If you are kind of having any struggles around mental health, or you've got some things that you want to talk about, find someone that you trust, or find someone in the workplace, reach out to either of us, and talk, because, if you share, it makes things so much better. Really embrace the giving back piece as well. Think that's very, very important. Being here to serve and help, I believe, is why we were put on this planet. So that also is key. And finally, just to summarize what Bobby said there, which really, really wise words of wisdom, really invest in building your thought leadership platform. Consider how you might be able to embark on learning about how to speak and creating that content as well, that you can get your message out there into the world. And finally, really do invest some time in networking. Emotional intelligence and networking, I truly believe is one of the absolute a number of the most critical things that business leaders of the future can do. And so if you can really spend some time, even if it's just, a couple of minutes a day, really just thinking about that, I think you'll be very pleased with the results. And of course, you can get hold of Bobby via his LinkedIn page or any of his social media handles. I'll make sure I put those into the show notes as well. At the end of this episode, you can visit www.leilamckenzie.com /podcast. And you can also come and visit us at our YouTube channel. Our new business is launching very soon, which, Bobby, I'd love to speak to you about. Dial Global stands for Diverse, Inclusive, Aspirational Leaders. And we're going global as well, coming to America and going to China as well, and London, of course. So we'll chat to you about that very soon, Bobby. But thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate
My pleasure.
it. My name is Leila Mackenzie, and you've been listening to Diverse and Inclusive Leaders, the podcast, with you every fortnight and soon to be every week, actually. Look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care now. Bye. Thank you so much for watching the Diverse and Inclusive Leaders podcast. Please do feel free to hit the like button below, or if you'd like to receive future notifications, do ping the notification bell here at the side. If you're interested in the audio version only, you can find it on the following streaming platforms. Any extra info and descriptions will be in the links below. Look forward to seeing you soon.